Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. So I'd like to welcome you all to our very first In Conversation With. So I'll be your host today. I'm Kieran James, Managing Director of Stride, which hopefully all of you should know, as the people watching this will mostly be our customers. And before we begin, I'd like to explain why we started this. So over the past few weeks and months, stories have helped many people by providing encouragement, inspiration, and some practical ideas to how to keep your kind of business going. And while spending time listening to all these stories, I realized how much they were helping me in my own business decision making, and thought it would be really good to share this across our customer base. So in this first webinar, I'll be chatting with customers of ours, Nigel and Karen James from Harbour Business Solutions. They've been running their business since the start of the millennium, so a long time, and have innovated through that time. So they began as more of sales and marketing, and through various different iterations, they've now ended up in a business training and coaching organization. And their training courses and coaching focuses on supporting mainly women entrepreneurs on how to start, grow, and structure their business so that you can have a better work-life balance. And obviously at the moment, that's going to be really important to lots of people. So that's everything from sort of how to grow your customer numbers to increasing profitability. Now, nice to have you with us, Karen and Nigel.
Hiya, nice to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Very welcome. I think it's an interesting time at the moment. I think that for some people, the reason I wanted to start this process with yourselves is it's just you've been through some of the challenges that people are going through now, and I think you've got some really good insights that can share, and I think hopefully even inspire people in terms of the kind of route that you've taken throughout your life. So I want to kind of jump into the meat straight away, as it were. So you've obviously spent 3.5 years of your time in business house sitting. Can you tell us a bit about that? What is house sitting, and what will you do, what does it mean to do that?
Right. Well, about back in 2015, we'd been running our business for just over 14 years, and it was down to me really. I was really struggling and feeling very frustrated. I think I sort of lost my business mojo, and I just wanted more fun and adventure because we were working an awful lot of hours and we didn't seem to have the time for fun or relaxation. And some friends of ours a couple of years previous had actually done some house sitting. They'd gone over to Tenerife and tried it out, and we liked the idea of that. We thought we would give it a go. And house sitting, just to explain it, is where you can go all around the world actually traveling and staying in other people's homes, looking after their homes and any pets that they might have. The idea is that you don't have to pay accommodation costs or utility costs, and they've got someone in their home for security purposes who will keep it clean and tidy as well, but also keep the animals in the same routine rather than sort of having to disrupt them and put them into kennels, because obviously a lot of animals get very insecure, and a lot of the house sits we did were looking after rescue animals. So it works well for both sides of the agreement, and so we decided we would try it out, and we thought, well, we'll just try it for a year initially in the UK, and and we ended up doing it for 3.5 years because we enjoyed it so much.
So let me get this right. So you're staying in other people's houses, and I mean, what do you do? How long do you stay in those houses then? So are you staying there for like long periods of time, short periods of time? What does that look like?
Right, well, that's an interesting question. Some were just like a weekend sit, and others the longest one we did was 5 months. So it depends what people want, really. We had some people that just needed someone to look after their dog while they were away for the weekend, and others where they were going away because they had a second home over in a warmer country. And that, it could vary. The average, I suppose, was about 2 or 3 weeks. But wow. And sometimes it was a month, but in most cases it was about 2 to 3 weeks.
That's quite a lot of traveling, to keep moving, and that constant change, and flicking between different things. I mean, kind of just to go on a bit of a slide for a moment, like how is that from a kind of a mental perspective? That kind of moving into the constant change, basically.
Yes, it was very challenging. We were having to adapt to new situations, new routines. All the householders wanted things done certain ways, whether it was just running their household, looking after their animals. There were certain routines they needed to be kept in. 1 minute we could be at one part of the country, and the next minute we could be abroad. So it was a challenge, especially trying to run our business all the way through this time.
And how did you manage that? How did you keep that business, the business going? What were you while you're not really, you don't have an office premises, you're constantly moving. I mean, how do you make that work?
Well, we had to, before we went away, we had to sort of really think it through, and we had to adapt our business so that we would be able to work from anywhere in the world. And that included, I was doing a lot of phone work at that particular time for my clients, through sort of lead generation, customer service calls, database building, that type of thing, as well as making sales over the phone at that particular time. And so we had to set up a VoIP system so that we could call from wherever we were in the world. I was also speaking to customers, and I used services like Skype and Zoom, and we automated as much as we could as well. So we just had to set up systems, we had to restructure. We also wanted to have fun as well as we were going through, I was trying to create an online course because I wanted to come back, and when we settled down, and not be doing everything face to face. We wanted to create more of a passive income. So there was a lot to take into account. We used a lot of cloud-based software at that particular time, and we're still doing that now in lockdown, as we've all realized we've had to adapt to that. So it was a bit easier going through lockdown with the fact that we'd already done that.
Yeah, and it's an accelerated, I suppose, like I can see a lot of people being in lockdown right now and thinking, actually this whole working from home thing feels all right. How do I set my business up to be more remote long term? But obviously, there's a lot of distractions in that. I was thinking about myself today. So about an hour before this webinar, I just heard absolute screaming and a loud bang, and screaming again and a loud bang. And basically, I knew what it was. It means my wife has decided to go to the toilet, because that's every single time that happens, Jessie and Ruben, my kids, just suddenly everything turns into a fight. So I go downstairs and I say to Ruben, I said, what's happened? And he told me, Jessie threw this fire house at him. I said to Jesse, I said, what's happened? He said, I threw firehouse at him, Hulk smash. So he told me exactly what he's done. So I knew exactly what had happened. But I think, inevitable, these kind of distractions happen, don't they? So, if you're looking after maybe not kids, but, animals and stuff like that, I mean, how do you deal with those distractions and keep the business going, throughout that?
That was very interesting. I think I'll let Nigel come in here, because that was very interesting. We've got a lot of situations. We had to prepare for them in advance, but until we knew what the distractions were likely to be, that was something that we had to go through and then learn from our mistakes. But I'll let Nigel tell you, we got a couple of sort of funny cases where that happened. Nigel?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think was quite funny, although at the time it was frustrating as well. We were doing the recording and the filming for a course, and we are staying in a property in Essex. It's quite a nice, very nice property, and the kitchen had a long table in it. At the back of the kitchen was double doors out into the garden, and if you looked out, it was beautiful. Just patio, a wall, then a raised lawn going up to where they had their chicken coop and things. So it was a really nice place to sit, and Karen sat with her back to the glass door, so we could get a really nice bit of scenery behind us. Spent a couple of hours as we did getting the lights and the sound all set up and everything. And everything seemed to be going really well. The recording was good, not too many mistakes and things like that happening through it. So it was all looking really good. We're used to the odd plane or helicopter or noise of a tractor going past, things like that. So we know to stop and start there. So everything was going lovely. But one of the things we'd not taken into account is that at 1 o'clock, the chickens were in the garden, and they came down to the patio and were given a handful of corn. Well, time went on, and we must have been like 10 past 1, and all of a sudden there's like tap, 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 tap on the window, right in the middle of the filming, a really important part of it. And it was all going so nice. And we just had this tap, tap, tap. So we had to stop the filming, go out, feed the chickens, go back in, start again. Couldn't have got more than 5 minutes into it. And I noticed a dog in the background, but I didn't really think too much of it. So we carried on filming. And then when we actually took a look at the film afterwards to do the editing, the dog had walked across just to the side of Karen's head where the raised garden was. And it turned around a couple of times and then turned with its back facing us and decided to have a poop on the lawn. In the video, right? And it was like, oh, it was
right next to my head.
Right next to Karen's head.
Did you keep that shot, did you?
It was funny, but it was frustrating because we'd done all the filming there. But you know, these things are things you just kind of just smile and carry on with.
It's easier in retrospect, isn't it? I know that with our kids, you know, between sort of 4 and 5 is like, we call it the death zone. Basically, the most likely time they're going to watch TV is then, because that's the time where maybe cooking tea happens, and the kids are hungry, they're tired, and you know, just about everything is against it. So I definitely get that. So you know, what kind of strategies or things did you put in place to help with this, with kind of the distractions that you had, and just like the flexibility you needed with your business during that time, because that's an incredible amount of flexibility to keep moving that often.
It was. I mean, what the first thing we did is really we had to look at what was the priorities. We had to prioritize, and that's so important with your schedule. We wanted to have fun and still travel and see places where we were staying. We had to keep the animals in their same routines and the household jobs that still had to be done in the same routine. We were trying to run a course and keep our business. So it was quite a challenge. Fortunately, we didn't have to work quite so many hours on the business because Nigel's got another business that pays him a residual income. So that sort of substituted some of our income coming in. But yeah, we had to say, right, okay, the animals are first, you know, the household second, and our time then is our time with actually having fun. We wanted to be the third main priority. And then what was left, we looked at and thought, right, okay, I've only got a certain number of business hours that we can work. We have to be as effective as we can. So we had to choose to only do the most important tasks that would move us forward in our business during those hours, so that we were the most productive and the most effective. And you know, that worked, and it's still working at the moment with lockdown, and in between, you know, our house sitting and the lockdown, it's been an effective way of doing things. So we can still have the leisure time, but we can still run our business and keep that going. So that was one of the key strategies that we used. Also is actually planning in advance for the distractions. Once we had some idea after a month or so on what the likely distractions were, we could do something about it. So one of us would animal sit while the other one was working, and the other way round. And we would also keep the animals occupied if we were having to do filming as well. We would find some way to keep the animals occupied. We could also be a distraction for each other, but fortunately a lot of the houses we were living in were absolutely lovely. They were very big, so Nigel would be in one end of the house and I'd be in the other.
Sounds really, as much as a challenge, that sounds really nice though, that if you can get to stay in nice houses and
absolutely,
you know.
Yeah, we were very, very fortunate. We stayed in houses with swimming pools and ensuite saunas and jacuzzis and massive swathes of land. We were very, very fortunate. So yes, there were good things and challenging things as well. So
isn't that a story of anything that's worth having? It's always the case, isn't it? I mean from a business perspective, then you're, you know, I think there's, you know, I even myself, I'm looking at it and going, you know, I get a bit of a niggle in, a knot in my stomach, even though I'm I suppose well versed in these things and you know, well read and all that kind of stuff. I still get a knot in my stomach when on the times where I'm not working, thinking, oh, if I could be working now, how much more could I be moving my business forward? So like, how do you make sure that you're in the right mindset for that, and you're able to, you know, limit the amount of stuff you do, and just, you know, how do you choose what you should be working on, all these sorts of things?
That's a really good question. Well, as I said, it's choosing to prioritize what's important in your life. You know, having time, you know, it's not much point house sitting, giving up your home and traveling around, you know, the countryside if you, you know, to actually go out and see the place if you can't get to see it, you know. And it was important that, you know, we did get that time. We made that a priority, possibly not as much as I'd have liked, but because I chose to do a course as well so that we could have passive income, a second passive income stream when we stopped doing it. That took up a little bit more of the time than we needed. But, you know, it is choosing to prioritize, and it's the same in lockdown. You know, you have to prioritize what's important. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've learned, and a lot of the people I speak to, you know, they've realized that people and relationships are more important than work. And yeah, I get the, you know, the feeling guilty when you're working. You feel you should be having time with your family. When you're having time with your family, you feel you should be working. I think all of us go through that, and I think it's especially hard for women. You know, they feel what they call mum guilt. But you know, it's choosing, and if you decide that that is your priority, then, you know, don't feel guilty about, you know, making that the priority. But I think you also got to find a balance as well. If you choose your business as the priority, you don't want that to be at the detriment of your loved ones either. So if you can plan, I think really the key thing is planning your schedule. That is so important, and being as productive as you can in your business hours. So, and that again, that is looking at priorities and making sure, okay, what are the key priorities you need to get done each day? If you've got only 4 hours that you can work on your business, what are the key priorities that you need to get done and finished? And if you get those done, you'll get a sense of achievement, and you know that you are moving forward.
That's really interesting. I was once recommended that when you do any sort of like at the beginning of your day, and obviously I do this most days anyway, is I set up my tasks for the day, but it was to put a pound sign next to anything that's revenue generating, and go, right, if it's revenue generating, you move forward, and then maybe put a C if it's customer service, because obviously you want to make sure you're supporting your customers. Yeah. And basically, if it doesn't have one of those two things, you try and pass it to somebody else, basically, or don't do it if it's not relevant. So that's quite an interesting. Yeah, really, that kind of, I feel how that resonates even with myself there. So obviously throughout the time then, like, were customers okay with you working limited hours? I mean, did you find that they were all right with that? Or how, you know, I know in the current time, it feels like, you know, the dress code seems to be slipping on Zoom. I didn't even think about it the other day, and I went into a really important meeting, which was about you know, somebody looking to take some of our financial director services, and I was in a t-shirt, and they went, "Oh, glad to see you've dressed down." I looked at them; they were both in t-shirts too, and I thought, "Phew, yeah, that's okay then." Whereas, you know, normally I'd be in a shirt. I don't really wear ties, but I'd always be in a shirt or a jumper or something smarter. It feels like that seems to be happening quite a lot. I mean, in that time when you were there, is obviously that wasn't the consensus across the board. So how did you manage that kind of being available at only certain times with your customers? You know, that relationship piece.
Sorry?
We dressed for any face-to-face.
Yeah, we did dress for a face-to-face when we were seeing customers, because we did when we were in a certain area, and if we had customers in those areas, we would actually still go and see them on a face-to-face basis. But I was doing a lot of the calls on Zoom or over the phone.
Skype.
Well, sorry, Skype. Yeah, that was Skype actually at the time, or over the phone. Our customers, we told them up front what was happening when we decided to go house sitting. We explained that there would be certain times that we were or weren't available, and our customers seemed pretty happy with that. You know, the one thing I learned from actually doing the house sitting is that when you give your customers absolutely not just an amazing customer service, but an amazing customer experience. And there is a difference, because an experience, you want them to actually feel that they have done something special with you, you know, that you've made it, just being around you and you're having contact with your business has been a great experience. And I think that's really important. moving forward with lockdown. I think as we come out of lockdown, a lot of people are going to be, we're all going to be competing out there. Everybody's going to want customers. The messages are going to be coming from everywhere, and the only way we're going to be able to stand out in a crowded marketplace is really to up the customer experience. And this is what we did. We had a limited amount of time, but we just tried to give them the best possible experience. I learned, believe it or not, I always thought I gave customer service, but with the house sitting, we learned to do it in a totally different way, because the people we were sitting for became our customers. And what we would do, just as an example, with our house sitters, is we would actually, our hosts, is we would go into their homes and we would do the best possible job. We would, even when they came back, we'd have everything spotlessly clean. We used to give the house a spring clean from top to bottom. Not that the houses were dirty, it's just that we gave it that extra clean. We would put fresh flowers, we'd bake cakes or fresh bread for them and have that. We'd go and get provisions for them when they came home, so they didn't have to go straight off to the shops. And and we always asked for reviews, and in all of the cases we got 5-star reviews. And people would recommend us left, right and center, and I was able to use those principles when after we finished. And that's what we did moving forward. We totally changed the way that we did things. Our customers became the focus instead of us becoming the focus. And I think all businesses now have to pivot. You might think you give great customer service, but what about an experience? Are you giving that experience, that over the top experience? If you are, that's fantastic, because you won't have any problem. But if you aren't quite hitting it on every mark, you need to think about that now.
Yeah, I think that's really sensible. Do you know what? That's really interesting. I've got there's a quote somewhere in there, isn't there? There's some about if your customers don't smell the cooked bread in the as they walk through the door, the smell of home cooked bread. That's a lovely space, isn't it? I can see that there's some sort of quote around that, some business quote that you'll probably have at some point. I like that. So that's your customers, and I agree. I think that the ante has to be up to the moment in terms of customer service and experience. I suppose it might be interesting to find out a little bit more about how people have done that. So maybe in the comments, if people want to have a chat about that or have any ideas of what they've done to up their customer experience, it'd be really interesting to hear what people have said. Do you think that, I think the answer to this question may have been different a couple of weeks ago, but do you think that right now people are ready for the sales process to be sold to, or it felt a bit like a taboo early on, but what do you think now? Do you think that sales is acceptable at the moment?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's been acceptable all the way through. I think it's just fear that has sort of held us back. I've been buying things. I'm sure you've been buying things, especially to keep the kids occupied through lockdown. Yeah. We've been out in the garden. We're shielded, so we can't even go out of the house. I'm just grateful for the fact we've had a garden. So we've been buying lots of stuff for the garden. We're still purchasing, we still need companies out there to purchase from. Things haven't gone away. Okay, yes, things might have changed, and there might be some shops that have shut down completely, and some companies that cannot operate, things like hairdressers, and maybe if you do face-to-face workshops, and classes, that might not be an option. But I know a lot of people who have adapted those face-to-face classes to doing online classes, and I mean, big companies, for instance, looked at this. People like Dyson and Apple, no one was going to be buying vacuum cleaners, and no one was really going to be spending a lot of money on phones and things like that. So what they did is they built ventilators to help the government. They're still making money all the way through the crisis, and businesses have been doing that, since the year dot. I've heard of a couple of hairdressers, believe it or not, now they're closed down. They can't operate at all. And this one lady, she was desperate to pay her bills. And so over the Easter weekend, just before the Easter weekend, she decided that she was going to create hair care gift baskets. And so she did that, and she wrapped them up, and she contacted all her clients, and she asked them if they would like to buy the gift baskets. And all of them said yes. And so she delivered them to their doors dressed as the Easter Bunny, and she actually made £1,000 just in 2 days, and so she was able to pay her rent.
Yeah.
And
It's
I know,
amazing.
yeah, it is. I thought it was just incredible. And I know another hairdresser who's been doing videos on how to cut your hair at home. You know, so people say, well, you know, she's going to lose business. But actually, I don't think that's going to be the case. She might lose the odd one or two, but I think people are so grateful. You know, let's be honest. You know, we're going to come out of this with all long hair and, you know, long beards and all sorts. You know, I think there's going to be a different fashion when we come out of lockdown. You know, so, but you know, they are going to be in such high demand then. And who are they going to go to? They're going to go to this lady because she provided them with that service when they really, really needed it. And that's another key thing. We need to meet customers where we're at now. It's not about what you need as a company going forward and setting your goals. It's about what do your customers need. Your goals and sales targets will automatically be met if your focus is what your customers need and want.
It's funny. I think you've kind of touched on something there that's quite I keep banging on about, and I know that somebody listening to this will has got the same thing, which is about that kind of, you know, making sure that people still know you're about, you know, that whole marketing thing.
Yeah.
I keep banging on about is, you know, how we should all be keeping marketing to purely based on that point, whether you know, ideally you're making money out of it, but if you're not, if it's just purely brand awareness thing, it's got to be about, you know, making sure that you're keeping those customer relationships, keeping those communication, that contact points,
Yeah,
with people. So yeah, I can see that. There's a couple of innovations there you've talked about, which is quite interesting. I think that we've seen, even with our own, you know, across the customer base, people innovating. Understandably, going online is one of those things, but you know, just even changing business models and doing just different things. You know, I'm not our customer base, but here's another one. The other day I went to buy some running shoes, and I bought some running shoes, some Asics. Got them home, went to try them on, didn't fit, or they didn't feel right anyway, and they were probably a little bit too small. So I thought, well, normally I go into a running shop, get my gait analysed, and then they give me a proper pair of running shoes that go with it. So I basically tried to Google online for somebody that could do that, and I found this running shop that could do it. And so basically I sent some photos, some videos of me running, and a couple of sort of, you know, drew on my foot so they could see the size of my feet and stuff like that. And then they did a consultation, sold me a pair of running shoes, which was probably about 40% higher than I would have spent otherwise, but I had nowhere else to go. I didn't know of anywhere else that was doing it.
yeah.
And then now I've got them, and they're awesome. They're amazing, and I will be promoting them to everyone I've spoken to, simply because you know, they provided a service at a point in time where I needed it, and SEO was the key for them, because that's what got me. I did a search, and the SEO got it. So there's going to be loads of different ways, whether it's, you know, I think that we will need to keep in contact with our customers. So that's very interesting. Okay, well, I'm conscious of time, so thank you very much for your time, Nigel and Karen. Really appreciate that. And I think that, you know, it's quite interesting to hear and intriguing to hear the story that you've had and some of the experiences you've had. And obviously, you know, we're sharing our customer stories with our other customers, and I'd like to, where possible, be able to promote our customer businesses as well within that. So where can people, obviously I've got a link here for you, but maybe you can just let people know, how can people find out about you, and tell me a little bit about this link that you've given me, the 7 strategies to create an incredible customer experience.
Yeah, basically, this is a guide I've put together based on a course that I run. We're closed on that course at the moment, but it's a course that I run, and this actually talks about the 7 points at which you actually have contact with a customer in your business. And we talked about not just creating a great customer experience, but not just creating great customer service, but a great customer experience. And by making tweaks at each of these particular stages within your business model, you can actually give them that great wow experience. And this guide is there. It's a free guide that you can just download, and it will take you through step by step the different stages and give you something to think about. you might already be doing quite a few of these, but there might be some there that you find useful. So I think it would be very, very useful if you haven't thought about this type of thing before, and if you do want to sort of think about, are you really giving them the experience that they deserve at the moment? So that's the link. We can be contacted by email with the Harbour Business Solutions at gmail.com, or I can put a telephone number as well for them if somebody wants to give me a call. I'm more than happy to talk to them.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. Maybe if I can grab that, I'll grab those links and send an email round to people that watch this with a recording as well. Because I'm sure there'll be people that will want to watch this back on recording and hear back to some of the stories. So yeah, thank you very much. I think, and I'll definitely be downloading that myself as well. So Nigel, Karen, thank you so much for your time there today, and yeah, appreciate you sharing your story and your insights at this time. And so everyone else that's listening or watches this back on replay, we are going to be looking at doing a couple more of these. If you like it, please do let us know. We're going to upload it to a YouTube channel as well. If you're watching it on YouTube, then please like and subscribe to the channel, and you'll see all the other ones, the other In Conversations With that we're going to do as well. Other than that, thanks very much for everyone's time, and stay safe, guys.